Anyway, let's go ahead and go to our next call. Let's go to Maurice in Mobile, Alabama. Maurice, what is up?
Hey, Dan, Andy, how y'all doing?
Doing all
Hi,
right.
good, thank you. How you doing?
My reason for calling, last week I was watching the impeachment hearings on MSNBC,
Mm-hmm.
and when Chief Justice John Roberts and the chaplain was in front of the camera, and the chaplain was opening up with prayer, John Roberts, I saw him. He'd open his eyes and look side to side. You could clearly see that he was opening his eyes and looking around. And I found that very amusing. And I would like to know what you thought of that. You know, what do you think was going on there?
So I didn't see this particular thing happen. Honestly, it's hard not to avoid some of that kind of news. But you know, it's obviously with the results of that, it's been hard to think about. But with Justice John Roberts, I'm not super familiar with his history with religion. I know that he's had some kind of interesting takes here and there when it comes to some of his decisions, but I don't know. I think I don't know. I know some pretty dedicated Christians that'll still look side to side when they pray. You know, I don't know if that necessarily means anything about his religious devotion. Maybe it's a tell, but I don't have enough information to kind of make any headway with that here or there. What do you think about that, Andy? I don't know if you've seen what he's talking about here either, but
I haven't. No, I know that when I was younger and I was at school and we used to pray, I would open my eyes, and me and usually one other person would clock eyes across the room, and it would be an unspoken knowing that we weren't that into it. I can't speak for the person you're talking about, but I know that for me, I wasn't that into it. I think that was a tell for me. Also, yawning when we sang hymns was a tell for me. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know this, but I think it's easy to make judgments perhaps and jump to conclusions. But you want to hear the person out really on what they're thinking. It's definitely an amusing sight, I imagine, although I've not seen it either.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people approach prayer differently. Some people take it as this very serious dedication to this thing in the moment, and some people just take it as kind of a communal practice, you know. And so if you're doing that kind of every week or every other day, you know, 1-2 skip a fews with your prayers, it's not going to be as big of a deal, right? I used to work at a Christian camp, and so I was literally teaching the Bible 6 days a week. You know, and it was, you know, we prayed after each Bible session, you know, and, you know, we teach the kids these different kinds of messages and things. And so, like, when you get used to it in that sense, I don't know, like, it was just an everyday thing for me. Like, I didn't think 2-second thoughts about it, right? It was just like, it was just kind of there. And so, like, the idea of somebody looking, I don't know, a little away from prayer. Like, people did that all the time at the place we were at because we were doing that stuff every day. So I don't know if you're in an environment like that where that's kind of the norm, it becomes less of a hassle if you decide to do something like that. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Maurice? Do you think it's a tell for something?
Well, I think it's disrespectful. You know, if he calls himself a Christian, be looking around while the prayer is going on. But it makes me think that maybe he's not a Christian. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. You know, I imagine when it comes to like the Supreme Court members, you know, they have a bit more consideration. I think people with legal studies have interesting backgrounds with religion, actually. I think there's an interesting correlation. I mean, I certainly know a lot of people who are atheists that also study law. I think there's like a high correlation there. I don't know. That's just anecdotal. That doesn't mean anything. Maybe there's lots of Christian lawyers out there. I don't know. But I feel like if you have that devote enough study to law, then you're going to study a lot of arguments and you're going to study a lot of like logical conclusions and stuff. And that might make you think twice about certain kind of religious, religious assertions, shall we say. So yeah, there could be something there to it. I don't know. But again, I don't know his entire religious history to say something one way or the other.
Well, I've been a fan of atheist experience for a long time, probably for 5 or 6 years now, and a fan of your show and also Talk Heathen. And I just wanted to say that, but also one other thing I would like to say is that, these Christians that call in and say they believe because of faith, I would just like for them to admit that they believe because they want it to be true.
Yeah.
And that is the truth.
I think that's true for a lot of people. I can't say the same for everybody. I think there are Christians who are convinced that they have a logical argument to their belief, and that if you follow X, Y, and Z, you're going to get to the same conclusions they do. But I think for a lot of people, yeah, it's just what they want. But Maurice, before we kind of let you go here, I want to know what's your favorite ACA show, and why is it Truth Wanted?
I think you have a really good show, and Talk Heathen is good too, and of course I like the Atheist Experience, but it's hard to pick a favorite show. You have different shows.
That's okay.
Correct answer. Correct answer.
Yeah, that is a good answer. Well, I appreciate your honesty there, Maurice. Of course, I love all the other productions here at the ACA, and the crew in the back has given me a huge kind of
and I miss
there we go. We got sound effects on this show now, by the way. I don't know if for those of you who haven't been tuning in lately, we got some sound effects, and they might do that from time to time. Anyway, Maurice, you were saying.
It kind of threw me off. I also wanted to say that I miss some of the co-hosts that used to be on the show, and I'd like to see them back on.
On this show?
Well, not on this show, on the Atheist Experience.
Ah, okay.
People like Jen Peoples and Tracy.
Well, I'll tell you this. That's outside of my jurisdiction. I kind of just run the whole Truth Wanted thing here. But at least with this show, I try to get in new people every single week. Seems to be working out pretty good so far. And I'm pretty happy with that. So anyway, we do want to let you go here, Maurice. But thanks again for calling in. And I hope to hear from you again soon. Well, sweet. Awesome. And again, I do mean it when I say I love all the shows here, okay? You don't have to say that Truth Wanted is your favorite, even though I know in your heart. It's just common sense, really.
It's written, it's inscribed on your heart.
It's inscribed in
your heart. The moment you're born, you just know it's common sense.
It's common sense. If you pick anybody in the world, you're going to have it. But not when you're 2 or 3. You don't know what's